Ja, willkommen zu unserem zweiten Keynote-Vortrag von Professor Andreas Stoffers. Andreas Stoffers hat seine Doktorarbeit über deutsch-thailändische Beziehungen geschrieben, also eine geschichtswissenschaftliche Arbeit, hat danach aber 18 Jahre in der Wirtschaft gearbeitet, und zwar bei der Deutschen Bank, darunter auch mehrere Jahre in Vietnam. Und seit 2014 ist er Professor für internationales Management an der Hochschule für angewandte Sprachen. In seinem Vortrag geht es darum, wie die Dinge, die wir studieren, Vietnamese Studies, Thai Studies, Southeast Asian Studies, sind die überhaupt wichtig für die deutsche Wirtschaft in ASEAN. Dankeschön.
Presentation of my person has been done already. Thank you very much. The question is, how did I come to Vietnam? What do you think? How can someone like me can come to Vietnam? I studied something about Thailand, and in the past I could speak Thai quite well. Now I forgot everything. But why did they send me to Vietnam? And that's the reason. You see, this is Vietnam? No. Singapore? It's Thailand. Definitely it's Thailand. But when Deutsche Bank decided to send me, HR department decided to send me to Vietnam, they said, okay, this gentleman, he has some banking experience, banking expertise as manager of branches, as coach, and so on. And at the same time, he has a knowledge of the Thai language, which will be very supportive for him in Vietnam. So, you see, I did not say anything because I think it's good. I really wanted to go to Southeast Asia, and Vietnam was a step close to Thailand. So I think it was a good decision to agree and to say, yes, I go to Vietnam. I did not mention anything. I say, yes, okay, it's very similar. I go there. But from this you can see how sometimes the perception in the business is sometimes that they do not see the big differences between the various Southeast Asian countries. And also the difference within a country, in East Asian country, and this is something which is lacking in the business. That's what I can say at the beginning. I've prepared a presentation with not many figures, so perhaps you are a little bit surprised. I just would like to show you a map of ancient times of Greece, 2,500 years ago. You see here the Mediterranean in the center of the world. And if you continue in the time, 500 years ago, not much long time ago, bless you, you see it did not change so much. Okay, you have the Americas, North and South America, United States, very small, you see here, not as important as it is today. And Africa, very big, still Europe in the center. And you don't see much about Asia, so I think this is a little bit too big to be Thailand and Malaysia, as you can see it. So the people did not know a lot. And if you have a look at the time today, how is it today? Also today, this is, I think you may know, ARD, the first German broadcasting television station, Europe in the center, and that's the European-centric point of view is still prevailing in the society and also in business. And if you have a look at the map today, if you are in Thailand or in Vietnam or any other Southeast Asian country, you see that the news are different, so not Europe so much in the center, you have a different view. But in Europe, it's still similar to the time before, 100, 200, 2,500 years ago. Europe is still the center of the world, and ASEAN is quite far away in a remote area. That's for the beginning, as a kind of introduction. What I would like to do today with you, I would like to give you a short overview on the European view that I did already. I would like to show you four trends in international business. Number 3 would be the 21st century, the Pacific century, can be called definitely the Pacific century. Number 4, ASEAN integration and the German economy. Key qualifications needed by German companies in ASEAN, war for talents, success factor, cross-cultural management or intercultural management, and last but not least, a summary international economic relations beyond 2016 if you have enough time. This is something I would recommend you to order to go to Google, perhaps after this lecture if you're interested in. and download this, The World in 2050 of PwC. Who of you knows it, this presentation? You know it? Who else? Some of you know it, 3, 4, 5, perhaps 6, perhaps some more. Who do not know it, I recommend you to download it for free and have some look on how the world, how the economy will be in 2050. This is a GDP, gross domestic product projection for the future. And if you have a look, Southeast Asian countries, how many Southeast Asian countries are among this list? Vietnam, Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand, with average growth rates much bigger than any other country in Europe. You don't see any European country here in that figure. This is something, just a projection. It can change. Many things can change. There can be a war in Southeast Asia, or anything else can happen. Or aliens can land in Thailand and something terrible is happening. But this is a projection, and a very interesting projection, because normally the business in Germany should have a look at it and should see which countries are the most promising one. And I think 5.3 average GDP growth from now on to 2050, it's quite a good and interesting figure. This is also an economic figure, and you see that I come from business administration and from the business. The G7, the big big seven countries from the Western world are performing quite well, but not as good as the emerging 7 who are coming from the emerging countries, from the developing countries. This is the first trend I would like to introduce. So the shift of global economic power. G7 is losing ground, and many things are developing in the area of Southeast Asia. That's trend number 1. Trend number 2, Chinese influence is rising. We heard it in the morning of my colleague, Professor Dosch, about the Chinese hegemony and the Chinese power. A very interesting presentation, and I don't want to add too much because it was a brilliant presentation. Just one point here, AIIB, Asia Infrastructure and Investment Bank. I don't ask, who of you knows it, AIIB? I think especially those who are from Asia, Southeast Asia, they may know it definitely. The others just have a look at it. What's that? The Asian Infrastructure and Investment Bank. I have 3 pictures out of it. This is the Chinese panda with the AIIB, with the Asia Infrastructure and Investment Bank. It's a development bank, a regional development bank comparable to ADB, to World Bank, IFC, or other institutions. And here the United States, they also have a cake, but they're looking not very amused. And if you see this picture, it's a similar one. It's from China Daily, from a Chinese newspaper. You see here the AIIB with many Asians and Europeans. Some Europeans are running to join AIIB and to feed the cow of AIIB, and the United States are very carefully looking at it. But what's happening with AIIB? What's happening is that you can see here on this, this picture, the Chinese are attracting many of the Europeans, and the first one in the row is the Englishman, and all the others from the World Bank, from the American-dominated World Bank to China. And this is something which is extremely interesting in business and in economics. The change to China, and that China's influence is rising again. We have to say it's rising again. And having a look, and sorry, this is in German, but I think it's very self-evident to see how it is. These are the member countries. Germany is definitely not a member country. In that case, it's a country which is close to AIIB, but it cannot be in the leading role because it's not an Asian country. And the red countries are not the members. You see North Korea, Japan, and the United States. Having in mind this Chinese growth, you can see how the countries are contributing. And China is contributing 29%, and the other countries are contributing much less. The contribution to this development bank mirrors that's what's happening after that. If they are active, if they are putting some infrastructure projects in Myanmar, in Thailand, in the Philippines, and so on, they use Money from ADB, definitely, from World Bank, and also from the AIIB, which is under influence of China. And you can see if China is one of the biggest donor, Chinese companies would get a lot. And here Germany is fourth with 4.4 billion US dollar. They also would like to get something in this AIIB. So that's one very important trend. And you can see here for the fair share allocation, non-Asian is very small. The United States are completely shut off. They are not part of it. And also what's happening, the countries with the biggest say, as I told you, countries who are paying, countries who pay, they can receive the most benefit out of it. And also Board of Governors, if you can see here, you can be sure that in the Board of Governors you don't find anyone from the United States. This is trend number 2, emerging China, which the German business has to have always in mind. Number 3 is global economy, global competition. And here again I have a nice picture. It's a container ship, a big one. So I have to put it on a very big slide to see it. And what is it? It is called the container ship revolution. Container ship revolution, what does it mean? It means that transportation costs are decreasing. So putting a can of Coke from the United States to Asia or something from Asia to the United States costs about 1 cent. 1 kilogram coffee, 15 cents. Vacuum cleaner, $1. A TV set from Korea, South Korea to United States, 15 US dollar. So that what in the past, the transportation costs, which have been extremely relevant for the business, are no longer important. We can see globalization of trade, global competition, the instruments of trade policy, and together with them, the free trade zones are getting more important. And there's a rising demand for people who can understand the world and who can manage globalization. That's a very important point, and this is something, if you have in mind, you are specialists for your region, for a country. This could be also very good for you if you do the right decisions later. This is something I would like to leave out because it's a little bit too much text on one slide. You can see, due to the globalization, national strategies are no longer sufficient in business. You cannot concentrate only on your own home market and put all the same ideas you have in your own market to the world. You have to do something different. And this leads directly to a growing demand for managers who can act in a globalized world. And now you can ask yourself, is it better to have someone who has a special knowledge in finance, for example, or in engineering, or take someone who can lead these people and who can work in that environment? We come back to that later. I would like to give you an example for this trend number 3, global economy, global competition. The example Deutsche Bank, my own company. When I entered Deutsche Bank in 1996, it was already, 1996, yes. It was already an international bank, but not a multinational corporate. It started short time before I came to Deutsche Bank, 1992, with Morgan Grenfell, acquisition of this American firm, this American investment company, and some years later with Bankers Trust, also called inside our company Bankers Trust, because it was proved not to be a very good investment. What happened then? Many things happened then with Deutsche Bank. And you see in the year 2007 there was an acquisition of part of Vietnam's Habu Bank, 10% stake, and nearly 20% of Huaxia Bank in China in 2007 when Deutsche Bank decided to expand its business. A visible sign for this new attitude towards globalization and multinationals in the company was John Cryan, for example, in 2015, the CEO of Deutsche Bank, still CEO of Deutsche Bank, who's an Englishman and who stands for the new Deutsche Bank, who's no longer a German bank, which is international active. German bank, Deutsche Bank, was internationally active, but it was never before a multinational corporate. Now it's a multinational corporate. And if you see the regional network here in East Asia and Southeast Asia, they are everywhere. And from my own experience, I can tell you, I was there in Vietnam in the board of as board member of Deutsche Bank. We have been 80 staff at Deutsche Bank Vietnam, 2 Germans, me in the board, and the second one was a client advisor for big German corporates. The other ones have been Vietnamese or Viet Kieu, that means overseas Vietnamese who came back to Vietnam. My boss was an Indian sitting in Singapore, and his boss was also Indian, also sitting in Singapore. And the head of Asia Pacific was an Australian. So you can see that this is definitely a multinational network where you have to act in and where you have to have some expertise and some feeling how to deal with these people. So, and as I told you, I was not a specialist of Vietnam. I did not speak Vietnamese when I came there, but I have the mindset for my study, for my background. It was not forgotten in all these years to adopt myself to a new culture. The first thing was, I think you are also interested, most of you are interested in learning languages. I learned Vietnamese 3 times a week, 2 hours, one lecture, and I always did my homework. So I did it quite intensively for the 3 years I have been there, and also for opening to the country, to learn about the history, to talk to people. And this is something what I did not learn in my business time. This is something I had in my background, in my Southeast Asian studies background, if you can call it, to concentrate on that. But let's go back to Deutsche Bank, to the example I would like to give you. I was in the so-called retail banking division, the branch network, not as splendid as the investment banking. What did they do? They started with China, that was the retail banking strategy, and came to India. And number 3 was Vietnam. Deutsche Bank's intention was to roll up the market and to start with 3 countries. In India, we had an own branch network, today 17 branches. In China, a strategic partnership, and in Vietnam, also a strategic partnership. For those of you who did not study or don't know much about business administration, don't worry, I just have 3 points. Follower strategy, it's in business administration, that means you are not the first in the market. So we have been a follower quite late. If you see 2007, 2008, something happened in the world economy, so it was not a very good timing, but it was a follower strategy. A combined sprinkler and waterfall strategy. Also, this is also from business administration, very simple. So I just explain it to you so that you understand that business administration is not as complicated as you may see. Sprinkler strategy means to cover more countries at the same time, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 countries at the same time, like a sprinkler. You have to put a lot of efforts, a lot of money inside, but you can be the first mover in the market. And waterfall strategy means step by step, one country by the other country. So you can learn from the other country, you don't have to put so much money inside. This was the strategy. And we had a combined sprinkler and waterfall strategy. First idea was enter 3 markets, and after the 3 markets, go to the next markets as a kind of waterfall. 2 models, as I told you, branch network and strategic cooperation. This is something, because I'm professor of business administration, I would like to mention. But you see, it's not too complicated to understand something like that. The question is it possible for a German multinational corporate or an international company from Germany to enter Asian market without considering cross-cultural management? And I say no, it's not possible. And I can't tell you all the details. I will tell it to you when we are talking face-to-face, but I experienced some decisions which I can never understand from senior management persons from my company and also from other companies who are completely stupid. I really cannot say it. I can't tell you the examples now here, but in public. I do it sometimes in my lectures in Munich. But if you see how to deal with the people and, okay, one thing I'll tell you. One thing, because it's not too complicated. We had first year in Vietnam, I did not know anything. I come there, I start to learn the language, quite difficult to learn and so on. I did everything what my superiors and also the partner bank did. But after 1 year, I got to know that the partner bank gives to our board member, we have one senior manager of Deutsche Bank in the board, every month $1,000. They put it in a deposit account, and the German bank manager, Deutsche Bank manager, cannot use it because he has a salary and $1,000 they put there. And they take it for CSR activities, corporate social responsibility activities. So that means to do something good for the society, to donate some money. And I did not know it, but the partner bank, they donated the money to the school for the super rich. I think the Vietnamese, of you, they may know it, the Amsterdam School in Hanoi. So Amsterdam School in Hanoi is a very good school, and they donated the money there because one of the board members of our partner bank was there and his children were studying there. After 1 year, I noticed it, and I thought, no, I can't do it. This is CSR, and the money should go to poor people, poor children or disabled people, AIDS people who are suffering from AIDS or anything else, single moms, anything. And so I asked my staff to identify an organization which we can donate the money. I identified an organization which was helping poor people in Haiphong for education. I like educational matters much more than health issues, so I decided to do like that. And then I asked my bosses, and they say, no, you can't, and the partner bank in Vietnam, they will get problems, and they have already everything. You can't do it. And so what I did, I asked my deputy, and we discovered a small lie. So I told the partner bank in Vietnam, my management decided to give the money to another institution, but I know that you have some obligations to that school in Hanoi, and you can still continue the next 3 or 4 months to save your face to give the money. So I told them a lie, and my managers, I told a lie at the same time. Now I'm out of it. I told them our partner bank agreed to it. So this is something what you can do, especially in this surrounding. And this was just one example. There are much more examples. If you know a little bit more how to deal with the people, how much do you give for TED, for example, as a gift? This is something you do not learn at a business school. This is something you learn in practice, and when you have the basic mindset on Thailand, you can not transfer it 100%, but you have the basic understanding and can transfer a similar pattern or similar approach to Malaysia, Indonesia, or Vietnam. Not the same, but you have an open mindset. Okay, I'm talking too much, but I'm professor, that's normal. And I have the microphone. So, trend 4, global economic network and free trade agreement. This is trend number 4. We have all the big players in the past, the United Nations, the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, OECD, G7, G8, G20, World Trade Organization, WTO, and the regional development banks. This is one part. That means everything is getting more and more connected, and business can get some money out of these development banks to go on with some projects in the developing countries. Second part of this global economic network are the organizations like the European Union, ASEAN, NAFTA, Mercosur, and all the other free trade zones who are coming up. Some are more successful, some less. And number 4 would be the free trade agreements. Yeah, I listed here the European Union Vietnam Free Trade Agreement, which was recently inked but not yet ratified, Trans-Pacific Partnership, and TTIP, CETA, everything what you heard about it. This is a trend. You can oppose it, or you can say, okay, I'm for it, but this is a trend which is definitely there in the world, the trend towards free trade agreements. One free trade agreement which is very interesting, in my opinion, is the free trade agreement here, the Trans-Pacific Partnership comprising the United States, Canada, Japan, and some Southeast Asian countries, and China is not part of it. So you can see this is also something which is sometimes aimed against China. In the free trade agreements, here just a list, we don't go through all of them, ASEAN has a lot of free trade agreements within the region, so it's really a booming region, and what comes with it is trade liberalization, facilitation, provisions on investment, movement of a person, and so on. So everything is changing, and ASEAN is part of this more liberalized world, and that's what it is. And also, if you have a look at AEC 2015, the ASEAN Economic Community, especially with the single market production base, the competitiveness with development, and the integration into the global economy. The question is, I don't want to talk too much about these things, but I think it's good for you to understand how the mindset of the people in business is changing currently. The question is, how can Southeast Asian study students use this momentum, this development of shift of global power towards Asia Pacific, the rising China, global competition, and the free trade agreements and these events together with them. And the question here again is the same as I posed at the beginning. Is it possible for a German company, MNC-IC, to enter Asian market without considering cross-cultural management? And from this example I gave you, I would answer, no, it's not possible. Why is the 21st century the Pacific century? I think I can call it a mega trend, not only ASEAN, but the entire Asia-Pacific region. You see some trends like urbanization, the emerging consumer class, resources, infrastructure, intra and extra, Asia trade. These are really big trends, and if you would like to see some figures, not many figures, you see the GDP per capita is growing in Asia from 2004 to 2015 from 100, if you see this year as 100, to 388, and also the number of corporates which are based in Asia Pacific is also rising. Headquarters in Asia, 40% of the big global corporates, they already have their headquarters there. Not only in ASEAN, but also in other parts of Asia. ASEAN is attracting more and more foreign direct investment, and I'm sure that you can't read through everything of here. But you can, if you see here the European Union, only this figures the value of the foreign direct investment inflow, 24,000. It's about 20% from the total foreign direct investment inflow. It's not necessary to see all the figures in this table, but you see that ASEAN is getting more and more important. And what does it mean for you, or what does it mean for anyone who is dealing or doing something with ASEAN? ASEAN is getting more and more in the focus. And this is also something I would recommend you to download from the ORV, German Asia Pacific Association, Ostasiatischer Verein. Sorry, I could just download it in German. They have it also in English, but yesterday it did not work. I could not download it in English. This is about ASEAN. There was an ASEAN expert circle consisting of people from ministries, German ministries, the German Business, German Asia Pacific Association, and some academics, including Professor Dosch. He was there, and they prepared something in Berlin and gave it recently, 6 months ago, to the government. They presented it to the German government with a strong demand for the perception, for increasing perception of ASEAN in German business, and intensifying all efforts in ASEAN. This is something which you can take as a motivation to concentrate and to focus on your Southeast Asian studies, whatever you are doing. So this is something which is currently ongoing. Oh, I see I have only 5 minutes. I come from the Rhine Valley. I can speak very quick, but I try to continue. German FDI, foreign direct investment, can definitely fail. And if you see the reasons for failure, I listed here only some. One is no sufficient preparation, compliance issues. I did not want to write corruption, bureaucracy and time. Everyone who is dealing with Vietnam, or especially Vietnam, knows that bureaucracy is a very tricky thing. Infrastructure is an issue. Red lines in business, the big companies of the state who you're competing with, qualified staff, and trustworthy partners. This is a problem for German corporates who enter the ASEAN market. And now I marked in red, which is something what you, as a student of Southeast Asian Studies, could manage for these companies. There's only one point, infrastructure. I think you cannot build up a very good infrastructure in Myanmar. I think this is something that takes a lot of time and you cannot do it as a manager or as a student. But all the other things, preparation, compliance issue, dealing with corruption, bureaucracy and time, red lines, qualified staff, identifying trustworthy partners. If you speak Thai, it's easier for you to understand who is trustworthy and not. It's easier to deal with them. What can happen if it is not working? This is something you can also write down, make a note if you like to do it. It's in German because it's a German newspaper. Handelsblatt, 27th April 2016. It's a company where the investment failed. And I think I don't have too much time for all of my slides, but this I would like to explain you. This is one company, one gentleman. I know the company very well. I've been there with my students, and I know the owner or the managing director quite well. It's a paper factory, SME, small and medium-sized enterprise in Germany. The boss, the director, or one of the family members, chairman, decided to expand. He visited Vietnam and he liked the food, it was very nice, weather was nice, and so on. But there was no real due diligence. He just decided, I want to go there. He identified a Vietnamese partner, came with a big Rolls-Royce or a big Mercedes S-Class, I don't know exactly, and he said, wow, that's a great guy, he has such big money, and he invested the money in Bac Ninh. I think people who are from Vietnam, they may know Bac Ninh in the north. Very well known for corruption, more than Hai Duong, for example, the neighboring province. So he went there and he trusted this partner. He sent a machine, a value about 1 million euro to Vietnam, and the partner did not pay. And at the end, what happened? The partner did not pay, but he was in the red book. I think it's something to certify that you are the owner. It was still 50-50 or 51-49. And he was not removed from the red book, and this process is still ongoing. And through corruption and many other issues, the company is not yet producing. And they cannot close it down because if they close it down, they have some severe problems here in Germany because they have to say, we have spent more than 1 million and it's gone. And for SME, it's a big problem. You see, if this person had a due diligence at the beginning, having a clear look at the province where you invest, talking to the people, having knowledge, cross-cultural knowledge of the other people you are dealing with. I think this would be very supportive, and this gentleman, they did not ask someone before, they tried to do it by themselves and it failed. And you can believe me, I was vice chairman of Eurochamp, European Chamber of Commerce in Vietnam for 3 years, and we have had many companies who failed because of the lack of cross-cultural knowledge. The next slides I would like to skip because we don't have too much time, and I think also the percentage is not so important what I have here. What is better, business knowledge or Southeast Asia expertise? Some people see it as a different sphere. On the one hand, the business knowledge in various areas like, for example, HR, finance, public relations, or sales. I think this is more in this sphere. In the other sphere, you find the Southeast Asian studies in general. You find Thai studies, Vietnamese studies, Indonesian studies, or whatever. This is the perception of many people in the business. But what are your strengths? I think the strength of Southeast Asian studies, whether you study Thaiistic or Vietnamistic Thai studies or Vietnamese studies or whatever, is an academic basis. You have some methods and tools, that's what you know. You have the knowledge of the culture in Southeast Asia, at least one country. You know a language besides English, and sometimes it's not important to have a C2, so have the best. Sometimes it's good to have a B1, B2, like I have only B2 in Vietnamese, but it's good to a basic for understanding. It's much more than all the others I met there. Experience in Southeast Asia because of your internships or because you studied there, boots on the ground. These are your strengths. The weaknesses, from my perspective as a former businessman, is lack of business basics. Finance, balance sheet, profit and loss, everything, perhaps you hear about it, but you are not very firm in that area. You don't have a business network. That's what I observed. Some people who study, for example, Thai language, they are very much focused on Thai language, and when they visit Bangkok, they don't go to the Chamber of Commerce. Why not? Why not go there? Just introduce yourself, look what they are doing. But normally, they don't have a business network. There's a smell of an academic ivory tower, Elfenbeinturm in German, so this is something in your subject. And there's no business mindset. And that's what I tell to many students. People who study business administration, they have some very clever phrases. They can say something like profit and loss, anything, for example, Bilanzen in German, and what else, break-even point, and all this stuff. I think you don't have this kind, and this is the advantage of the people who study business administration. They know from the beginning they want to work in business. But it's never too late, as you can see from me. Students of Southeast Asian studies, they don't see only the top of the iceberg, as sometimes people who are studying business administration, you see what's below the surface. And this is something very important because culture has 3 different levels, according to Edgar Schein. Visible organization, structure and processes, the artifacts of a culture, the same. Strategy, target, philosophy, the exposed values, you have it in business as well as in the culture. And the subconsciousness, perception, the truth of a culture, of the Thai, of the Malaysian or any culture. So let's go further. There are different manifestations of culture. We don't have too much time. Okay, 5 minutes. Corporate culture, I just take it. Department culture, professional culture, culture of a generation. This is something which you are normally not so much dealing with in Southeast Asian studies, but you have something which can be added, the culture of a country or region, a culture of a civilization, and these are your strengths. And what normally should be done is to combine a corporate culture, like for example Deutsche Bank, and the culture of a country, here in Hanoi, and create something which is a kind of corporate culture and a corporate culture of the country to combine both. So you have here the classical branding of Deutsche Bank with the slogan "Passion to Perform." Together, it's an official advertisement with the skyline of Saigon. And that's what I can tell you, that there are no 2 different spheres, something which can be combined. It can be combined business knowledge together with Southeast Asian expertise. And if you do this, this is something, a factor for success. And I would like to end with 4 recommendations. First recommendation, don't shy away from business administration. It's not too complicated. And something like finance. I really hate finance. I come from sales. I worked in sales, and I don't like finance and controlling. Some basic understanding. It's so easy if you see, for example, a balance sheet, compare one with the other. Everyone who sees it the first time and has a little bit thinking about it, he knows how to interpret it. And there are people who are controllers. I had a controller. She loved controlling so much, a Vietnamese. She married a chief financial officer from a big company, from Air Mekong, because she loved controlling, loved finance. And these people are supporting you, so don't worry. And also, when you are in Bangkok, in Hanoi, in Jakarta, or wherever, why not asking the Chamber of Commerce, can I come to visit you, just would like to look around, or do an internship there? Can be also interesting for you, and they are looking for it. Number 2, start with networking as soon as possible. So this is something what I always tell my students, but most of them, they don't do it. They are in and they are out. For example, here, German Asia Pacific Business Association. They have been here. Mr. Müller, now he's away. Here, they are here in Hamburg. Here, the Chamber of Commerce in Vietnam. The Export Tag, the Export Day. In Bavaria, we have it this month. I go there with 3 students, a selected number. On this Export Day, you have many companies, many chambers of commerce, let's say 100 companies who are interested in doing export. We have 20 or 30 Chamber of Commerce heads from the ASEAN countries and other countries, and no students. Normally no students go there, only businessmen. But if you say I go there, it's easy to go there because no students go there. If I go there with 3 students, I asked the head of the Chamber of Commerce, he said, okay, come with 3 students, no problem. This is an opportunity for networking. And if you are interested in HR, which is also very attractive for people who do not study finance or anything else, more the soft skills. The German Deutsche Gesellschaft für Personalführung, the German HR Association, the biggest one. Nearly all of the German big players are there in this organization, and they have something, it's called DGFP, Young Professionals Network. You can become member, and as many companies or many organizations, the number of active people is extremely low. And if you say, I become member there, work as young professional, organize an event, for example, together with BMW, you can approach directly the HR head of BMW or any other company here to organize an event, because they are also member of that. ORV, German Asia Pacific Association, the same. The big players are there and many SMEs. So don't shy away, just go there. They are most of the time friendly, and if they are not friendly, you say, okay, forget it, I try the next organization. Number 3, try to, yes, I know, 1 minute. Try to change something what you did in the past and transform it to something new. This is my dissertation. Im Lande des weißen Elefanten, the land of the white elephant, 100% historian work. It's nothing to do with business. It stopped 1962. So, but what did I do? I transferred it, and this was published last year. Thailand and Germany, business, politics, culture. So I did not copy and paste. So I take 50% of my historical background and added 50% of current situation in business and culture. So I will never lose my background as historian. I added to my new experience as businessman and now as a professor, and this is something what I ask you, I invite you, just try to start your career in business. Don't forget what you learned here with Professor Grabowski and with the other professors here. This is your past and this is your present, and it can be used also for the future. So, thank you very much. Welcome to German Business.